Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Rob,
Hey, my name is Lion.
and this is the Somewhere in the Middle podcast. This is our first episode, and the concept for this show is to look at issues that are either trending topics or kind of viral topics that have polar opposite opinions at both extremes, and kind of find the middle ground, look for the truth, find out what's what. And today we're taking a deep dive, you could say, into cold
I like
plunges.
that deep dive, cold plunges. Let's just start by looking at, I know that you've done a lot of research, Rob, and found a whole bunch of different articles that we can compare as well as some videos that we can look into. Do you want to start with the articles right over here?
Yeah, so we got one from Forbes here. This is health benefits, risks, and more. So the evidence around the benefits of cold plunging is largely inconclusive. So right off the bat,
Okay.
that's very encouraging. According to this doctor, athletes looking to reduce post-workout muscle soreness or individuals looking for an experience may find cold immersion appealing. The practice also serves as treatment for long-distance endurance athletes. So that's not everybody. That's kind of like looking at people who do intense training or long-distance running. But what about the average person? Cold plunges may have a positive effect on stress management as well. So that's something that I've heard from a lot of people,
Right.
is that it can be kind of a mood booster, that it can release all kinds of endorphins and stuff like that. So people use it for anxiety or to treat things like depression. And there's something about that here too. An ongoing clinical trial on sea swimming for treatment of depression and anxiety further highlights the potential benefits of regular open water bathing on mental well-being, specifically the impact that cold water swimming may pose for depression and anxiety. So yeah, that's one of the potential benefits, but this is talking specifically about swimming in open water, not necessarily cold plunging in your backyard.
Right.
Interesting thing at the end. Dr. Russell also agrees that additional research is needed. It's possible that cold plunging may also contribute to weight loss, increased libido, and improved glycemic control. So extra research is needed on those things, but he says it's possible. I see a lot of people online preaching that those things are actual legit benefits of it. So this doctor feels that extra research is needed. So
Okay.
yeah.
Let's talk about some of the risks that this specific doctor is talking about. So one of the things, so it basically like names three things. So like one of the first things is talking about is cold shock. So he basically says that sudden cold water immersion in temperatures less than 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit can cause the body to enter into a state of shock, which can lead to involuntary gasping, rapid breathing, heart rate and blood pressure spikes, and impaired cognitive function, such as clouded thinking and decision making. So basically, what happens like when hypothermia, like you jump into like a
Basically.
cold lake, and then you just basically start shaking and shivering, and you're not really thinking straight. All right,
Yeah.
so that's that. This one is kind of pretty obvious, right? He's also talking about physical incapacitation. Another risk is a loss of muscular control, which can worsen the longer someone is immersed in cold water. Again, like, I guess this is what happens when you're, yeah.
Not such a big deal if you're in a tub or something, but a bit more serious if you're like in a lake or something like that.
Yeah, because it literally continues by saying potentially lead to drowning.
For sure.
Okay. And the third one is what we mentioned kind of a little bit earlier, hypothermia. So after 1 to 3 minutes of immersion, so this is not a very long period of time, like 1 to 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
That's relatively quick. In these ice waters, the temperature below in temperatures below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, the body temperature continues to drop, increasing the risk of hypothermia, which can begin at the core body temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically, pretty obvious things that you would imagine happen to you
Yeah.
when you submerge yourself in this very cold water. Okay, we want to move on to the next.
Yeah, let's move on to the next thing. I mean, those make a lot of sense to me. It feels like common sense. Like
Yeah.
the things that happen when you're in super cold water, yeah, your body's gonna react a certain way. So let's look at some other articles.
Okay, I like this one. It's literally called "You're Not a Polar Bear." The plunge into cold water comes with risks.
So it starts jumping into icy cold water in the dead of winter might seem like a crazy idea, but the so-called polar bear plunge has become a popular activity, often paired with raising money for charity or people posting on TikTok.
We'll get to that.
So, evidence supporting the health benefits of cold therapy remains scant. Experts caution that for some people, shocking the body with cold water could do more harm than good,
Okay.
even at less than frigid temperatures. The National Center for Cold Water Safety warns that sudden immersion in water under 60 degrees Fahrenheit can kill a person in less than a minute.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think we'll see this as we get into like what some individuals have to say about it in videos and stuff later, but those who are doing cold plunges, I don't think started at 100. Like there's a process to build your tolerance and ramp up to it. So I think obviously what these articles are pointing out is that if you're not used to doing something like this, don't just go jump into an icy river, because there's serious risks associated with it. And I think like nobody, it's important that people don't understand, like don't misunderstand from watching what people are doing online. And think that, oh yeah,
Which is never the case, by the way. People always understand.
Yeah, everybody understands everything on the internet.
Right.
Right. So here, this goes on to say, within minutes, the loss of heat begins causing problems. Blood rushes away from the extremities to the body's core to protect vital organs. That leaves the arms and legs without good circulation, which can lead to a loss of strength and coordination. So it's basically echoing what the previous article said
Right.
about losing control of your muscles.
What we often don't see in these videos is potentially also like the preparation, not be like before you actually put your entire body into that cold water. There's like maybe a preparation, maybe like a gradual preparation over days, weeks, or months of how you gradually get your body ready to to get into a certain level, as well as the preparation of like each time, maybe like putting a little bit of water behind the neck. Like I don't know if you've ever done that, like to like wake yourself up, or like I don't know, like after like a big workout, like one of the things that they do is like they put, because apparently like send certain signals to your brain.
Yeah, I've never done that. I hate the cold, for the record. I haven't. Okay, so I've heard about a lot of the benefits of cold exposure, and I've been trying to get into it. I find it incredibly difficult because I'm a wuss. But I have been trying to take cooler showers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I felt that it does have an effect. Like you feel a certain sensation when you get out. And this is not cold water by any means. It's just like cold enough to be like a bit uncomfortable.
Right.
And you feel it like for a while afterwards, you feel very energized. Like there is something that happens chemically when you do that to yourself. But obviously I've gone nowhere close to the extreme with this. So I'm interested to see what some of these other articles say about the benefits, because I've felt some of them myself to a small degree.
Yeah, I mean, adding to what you just said, like in terms of like cold showers, I literally, like, most of the time, like especially in the winter time, like I don't know where you guys live, but like if you live anywhere like in the Northeast, like we do, in the winter time, like honestly, like the main reason, like to me, taking a shower, especially like in the morning, like for like cleaning myself up reasons, is like secondary, because I usually take a shower like right before I go to sleep at night, just like, after the gym and all that kind of stuff. So like in the morning, one of the main reasons why I would even take a shower is because I kind of like want to warm up, and I just feel better like starting my day, instead of just, sometimes like maybe cold a little bit in the morning, because I like to keep the temperature a little cooler so you sleep better. So in the morning, I would like literally, as I get out of the covers, I would want to take a warm shower just to kind of like warm myself up and feel better. I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's good for my body, like based on a lot of these things, or I'm making myself less energized, or
So it would probably be really painful for you to take cold showers in the morning if you're used to just
I
warming
don't.
up in the shower when you get out of bed.
Let's look at a couple more articles, and then we're gonna jump into some videos. So this one, cold plunging: do the benefits outweigh the risks? Okay, so Anne Orzechowski, I'm butchering the name, an OSF Healthcare Family Medicine Advanced Practice nurse, says that there are some benefits to cold plunging if it is done safely, if you are used to it. So again, like we're
Right.
talking about, like we have to, like there's a certain maybe a procedure of how to do them correctly and safely, as well as how to maybe gradually get your body to a point where you're ready to do them. People don't want to hear that kind of stuff, like
No.
with anything, right? Like that you have to do something safely. It's not cool anymore. It doesn't have that it cool factor if you're going to start putting a whole bunch of disclaimers on anything, right?
Yeah, safety sucks.
Right, safety sucks. So some studies from the colder climates show that there might be an increase in white blood cells. So there are thoughts that you might not get as sick. Okay, there is a decrease in triglycerides, an increase in endorphins. So some people may feel better, may say that they feel better.
Okay, that makes sense if there's a release
Sure.
of endorphins. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so she's talking about like some of the risks here. The initial thing that happens when you jump into a cold body of water is that initial shock reflex, that gasp. Basically, your body hyperventilates. It tries to get your blood flowing a little faster, tries to get your heart rate moving a little faster, and get that blood moving a little bit. This is what I guess, what relates to that heart conditions. Like if you have these things and you're putting your body under such a high level of stress so quickly, where your blood is just trying to pump way faster than it did like literally a second ago, that might be very, very difficult for your heart to manage.
Okay, there's another part that says, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cold water immersion creates a specific condition known as immersion hypothermia that develops much more quickly than standard hypothermia because water conducts heat away from the body 25 times faster than air. So you're way, way more susceptible in cold water than you are in cold air. And she continues, I would especially not recommend it for somebody with any sort of peripheral vascular disease. So yeah, again, people with heart issues, it's not recommended. It ends by saying, overall, the bottom line is that the risks of cold plunging tend to far outweigh the benefits.
Oh.
And she advises people who are intrigued by these videos to avoid trying it themselves. All right, 3 articles and 3 pretty
So
cautious messages.
Nurse Ann, or is it Chomsky? Not a fan.
No. So maybe the next thing that we should look at is the people who are saying good things about it, because we've seen a lot of negativity towards it in the articles. So let's check out some of the people who are preaching the benefits.
Okay, so this one is a channel called It's L Health. Okay, I see why people will be watching this though.
Yeah, is this video really appealing because of the cold water, you think? Yeah, trends like this are a great excuse for people to take their clothes off. It's,
Yes.
you know, and you don't see a lot of unattractive people doing the cold plunge either, do you?
I'm very curious, like, these channels, right? Like, because most of the time when you see these channels, like, like the way they would monetize it, are they selling you some of them are maybe promoting, because I've seen like there was a brand at the beginning of the video of like that tub. So I don't know, like, what is it called?
Bellin Country.
Bellin Country. So I don't know if it's like the tub that's, being promoted. I don't know if it's her fitness programs that are being promoted. I don't know if it's maybe like an OnlyFans situation in that case, or something that's being promoted. Obviously, there's a reason why, like, they would share a lot of these videos. Like, if you kind of like look down into, creators, they're obviously they're trying to monetize their content if they're big enough somehow. So I'm just curious, like, how they're integrating the cold plunges into it. So, okay, so this one, all right, cool. Let's see another one. This one, Nina, what is it? Nina something, okay.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. She's in Alaska or something. It's impressive, visually very nice. But like, this is not so much about the cold plunge and the benefits of it as it is like showing off, I'm in a cool place, look at what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's not the purpose of why she's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's very similar to the first video a little bit. Like she wasn't really talking about the benefits of the, okay, look at this one.
This one I find crazy, and I have a bunch of questions. I'm not a doctor, but the little kid, this little toddler, is doing the cold plunge with the mom, and he's just chilling out in that bucket of ice water. Like, that kid is tougher than I am, honestly. But is that good for a little developing body to be bathing in freezing cold water? I don't know. I have my doubts about that.
Beyond the obvious benefit of having this kid in the tub, to make this video and give this video more views. I'm just curious, are there any other benefits for the child to do that, right? All of these benefits that we talked about earlier about maybe like mental clarity or like, you know, dealing with anxiety or all these things that we've read in the previous articles, I don't think that they apply at all to a
Or
toddler,
maybe he'll
right?
say his ABCs faster after the cold plunge. Like, I don't know, you know.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
That's like a very extreme example. Like that I feel like it's being outrageous to get eyeballs on your videos.
For yeah, being outrageous for the sake of being outrageous, just to get more eyeballs.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with you. I feel like that's so true for just so much stuff that we see on social media in general. Like if anyone would come out and just say, and would just you know advocate for anything that's done in moderation. You know what I mean? Like whether that's for health benefits or whatever else that is. I just don't feel like it would have the views on social media. It often needs to be outrageous for it to be popular as popular as it is. You know, cold plunges and all that, cold exposure on social media. It needs to be outrageous. I just watched something else here. Extremely dangerous, and here are 3 reasons why you should never take one.
Ice baths are literally the worst thing in the world and extremely dangerous. So
Okay, this one is
3
basically
reasons why you should never take one. Number 1,
setting up a
taking
video
ice
in a
baths
way
consumes
that
so much energy that you'll probably end up spending twice
you would
as long
think
in
that
the
he's
gym,
critical of it,
and
but he's
you might
actually
just have the most productive day of your life. Number 2,
advocating
taking ice baths
for
every
it.
day might just turn you into the most disciplined beast on the planet. Someone who never makes excuses. So you might run the risk
Yeah,
of
so
having
this
the
is
most
like
incredible
making
willpower
fun
to
of the
keep all your
risks
good habits in
also,
check at all
right?
times.
So that's
And
kind of
finally, taking
downplaying the
ice baths
risks,
gives you a
which
huge dopamine
there are
rush. So
some.
there's a massive risk
So that's
that
why
you
I find
feel
this a little bit
unbelievable all day
problematic
long.
because it's
Therefore,
kind of like
what's worse is
making
that the
fun
more
of
you do
anybody
this, the
who
less you crave
says
short-term
that
dopamine
maybe you
fixes like social
shouldn't be
media.
doing this,
So if
Right.
you don't want any
due
of
to
these
certain
adverse side
reasons.
effects, make sure you stay well
Because like
clear
it's
of
his
this right
message is
here.
like pretty much, you know, why wouldn't you want to do this?
Right,
So
because
there's
the
only
worst thing that
pluses, you know?
because the worst thing that could happen is that you'll become happier and less, you know, depressed and more motivated, and you'll just do better. Like obviously he's making fun of the potential risks. Okay, this is one of my favorite dudes right now,
Gotta love GSP.
GSP, and I've seen quite a few GSP videos where he's promoting and doing cold plunges.
It's our hometown boy.
Yeah, and think about this, like, you know, GSP is probably not your average dude, right? Like, you know, beyond the fact that he's like a very high level athlete,
An elite athlete.
and all of these other things that he probably does to keep in such great shape beyond just cold plunges. Again, a lot of people just take things out of context and be like, oh, GSP does that, therefore I should also do that. But
Right.
they might not consider the fact that, you know, his diet, his training, you know, he probably goes and gets like regular checkups and just like knows exactly what's going on with his body. So he's able to, you know what I mean? Like to really get that firsthand information about whether or not something that he does or doesn't do and how it affects his body compared to the average person. You know,
And
which,
I'm sure, and compared to the average influencer,
Yeah.
because I'm sure that he is doing this 100% for the health benefits and not because his TikTok video will blow up, you know, as
Right.
opposed to some of the other people that we may have seen.
yeah.
Yeah, so for somebody like him who's in terrific shape and, you know, doesn't have the health concerns, then I think it's definitely something worth looking into.
I mean, that's not to say that, you know, maybe an you know, an athlete or whatever might always have it right, but I'm just saying that compared to like the average influencer or even, let alone the average person who might watch a video and practice, you know, cold plunges, there's a huge difference, you know, just in preparation, in just, you know, I guess the amount of people that he would have access to in order to really do his research and
Yeah.
see whether or not this specific activity and you know influences him or how it influences, you know, his body and affects his body compared to the majority of people who are just going to watch it and repeat it without having any sort of, you know,
Yeah.
information about what's going on. Is it good for them? Are they harming themselves?
He's working with health professionals all
exactly.
the time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's
yeah,
very
yeah.
in tune with his body.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move forward and just look at another video here. So Squat University here.
Okay, so these are more informative ones.
Not again. Morning, guys. It is day 87 of taking an ice bath every single day. The water temperature is 1 degree Celsius.
So it seems like everyone is doing ice baths nowadays, but if you want to get the benefits of cold plunging and minimize the negatives, make sure to follow these steps. But first, let's briefly touch on just a few of the many positive benefits of deliberate cold water exposure. Just being in that water is going to help with the release of epinephrine and norepinephrine in your brain and body, which can help with mood and alertness. You're also going to have more release of dopamine, which can help with mood. And if you want to obtain all these benefits, make sure to follow these tips from Dr. Huberman. First, your total time in water during the week is only 11 minutes, not all at once, so just a few minutes at a time per day. You also want to limit your cold plunge to at least 4 hours after your workout if your goal is to maximize hypertrophy adaptations.
He cited Andrew Huberman, who is like an expert on this, and I've watched some of his podcasts on cold plunges, and he's got a very balanced take and always talks about the risks in relation to the potential benefits. So he's a great source if anybody's interested in checking this stuff out. Andrew Huberman, go watch his videos. You'll get a lot of great information there.
Okay, Gary Brecka.
So I'm a huge fan of cold water plunging, but probably not for the reasons why you think. You know, I also sit on the board of the NFL Alumni Association Athletica as a health service director. You know, there was a time when we used to think that putting athletes in cold water after exercise was good because of its anti-inflammatory effects. We know now that that's only about 15% of the benefit. The majority of the benefit comes from something called a cold shock protein. If you really want to be fascinated, Google cold shock proteins. These are reserve proteins that are in your liver. They're dumped into the bloodstream in an effort to save your life when you put yourself in cold water. They scour the body of free radical oxidation. They increase the rate of protein synthesis, muscle repair. They are free. You get them when you put yourself in cold water. I don't know what the Celsius conversion is, but I use 50 degrees for 3 minutes, minimum, 6 minutes maximum. Cold. Yes, it's actually not that cold. I mean, you know, I see people getting in 37, 38 degree water. There's no evidence that I've read that shows that colder is better. You get a peripheral vasoconstriction, so it forces all the oxygen into the core and up to the brain. And you get an activation of something called brown fat, right? Thermogenesis comes from brown fat. And for the women that are listening, for some reason I seem to ensnare the women when I say this. Remember that the definition of a calorie is a measure of heat. Right? I mean, the definition of a calorie is the amount of energy it takes to raise 1 cubic centimeter of water, 1 degree centigrade. So if a calorie is a measure of heat, then this means that when heat's leaving your body, calories are leaving your body. So if there is nothing, no amount of exercise hits cardio, no type of cardiovascular or weight training that comes anywhere close to immersing yourself in cold water in terms of what will strip fat off your body fast.
So basically saying that instead of exercising, like you can just literally just do cold plunges and you don't need to go to the gym or anything, and you're just going to like shed a whole bunch of fat.
I don't think he's saying that you don't have to go to the gym
Well, I
anymore.
mean, he's saying that's the biggest thing that's going to shed fat off your body is just by immersing yourself into cold
if you're
water.
in there for 3 to 6 minutes, then how much fat can you really lose? Because it could be 1,000 times more effective than going to the gym, but you're in there for 3 minutes, right? Like what's the... How effective could it possibly be? I know it's a great selling point. I don't know why he said specifically women seem to care about that, because I see just as many guys doing cold plunges as women. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously he knows that there are some benefits. I have heard about the cold shock proteins before. I've also heard about heat shock proteins, which you get from being in the sauna. They do kind of a similar thing from what I understand. And then the brown fat activation. Yeah, that's cool. The thing that he said about something turning on in your body, like that's like as if it's trying to save your life because you're like gonna die or something. From
literally,
It's like, I don't know if that type of stress is really great in the long term. I keep hearing about how like you should, it's like regular stress and anxiety, right? You know, you go through that and then you have these chemicals that go through your body, which are supposed to, it's like the fight or flight reaction. Like when we were hunting and hunting animals and in danger, you would have this like spike of chemicals when you were in real danger.
Right.
Now we have this like low grade anxiety all the time, it seems. And so you have those same chemicals running through your system at a low level, which isn't really good for prolonged periods of time. So I'm not sure if like the kind of life or death response that you get from your body is a beneficial thing in the long run if you keep doing it over and over again. But I don't know.
Does your body still keep treating it as a life or death, even though you're doing it every day, or does it at some point maybe gets used to the fact that you're like, you know what I mean? Like maybe you're not tricking it anymore into thinking that you're just literally about to die because you're exposing yourself to that same stimulus like every single day or
That's a good,
on a very
good
regular
question.
basis.
Or maybe it's different if you kind of ramp it up from something
Right.
not as extreme, and then, you know, as you build your tolerance, you get colder and colder.
I made a huge mistake doing an ice bath like this a couple of months ago. And here's why.
Remember, water is 29 times more thermogenic than air, meaning it removes heat from the body at 29 times the rate of air. You can die in 72-degree water. You can't die in 72-degree air.
Yeah.
You can get hypothermia. So when you get in cold water, the idea is to shock the body, don't adapt to that process, and get out. That's why 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. I haven't seen any research that colder is better or longer is better. People on Instagram all the time, they're going in 37-degree water with a snorkel, going underwater and trying to stay under there for 10 or 12 minutes. I go, that's crazy. Your brain is this far inside the surface of your skull. It's not good to freeze it. It's not good to bake it.
Right.
So you get into cold water, 48 degrees, 50 degrees is plenty. Get in for 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum, get out. You'll get a release of cold shock proteins. You get a peripheral vasospasm. You'll get a massive dump of endorphins. It'll enhance your mood, your emotional state. You'll activate brown fat. You'll turn your thermostat back on. I call it my drug of choice. You're high from that for 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, easy.
It's amazing.
Now, do you find, is there a better time to do it? Is it to maximize the benefits? Like if you're doing
Yes.
it on an empty stomach in the day, morning, is there?
First thing in the morning, as early as you can in the morning before you exercise.
That's like the worst time that you would
Skip
think about doing
skip
it.
your hot showers, go straight to the cold plunge.
That's
You've heard
literally-
it.
To me, that's the worst time that you could possibly. I mean, not that I know like what is it the best time to actually do it for your body's benefit, but like that would be like the worst time. You know, you wake up in the morning, you're a little bit cold from the night, or you know whatever. Like the last thing that you want to do is put yourself in like freezing water.
So he seems to be having like a kind of balanced perspective on this, because
Yeah.
he said that he doesn't necessarily think that longer is better, and he doesn't think that colder is better. So like the people jumping into the icy rivers and
Right.
lakes might not be getting any
It
additional
looks cool
benefits.
though.
Of course, it looks cool.
It looks really cool. Like I see so many of them like literally having to like break the top layer of the ice in that
Yeah.
tub or whatever because it froze over. It looks really cool, and that's why I feel like it's so popular on social media, because it looks awesome when you have to like literally like take these huge like weights or dumbbells. A lot of people use like these axes or you know really heavy big hammers like trying to break through the ice. I feel like it just like looks really cool, which just adds to the whole experience of them doing it.
Yeah, and he mentioned something that was in one of the articles we saw before about the body losing heat. He said 29 times faster in water.
Right.
I think the article said 25 times faster.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's close enough in water compared to in air. So yeah, definitely. At least he addressed that point.
Yeah. But I mean, he still talks about like three minutes minimum to 6 minutes maximum. I mean, 3 minutes is still like, it's based on the articles that we've read, it's still a pretty long time, like compared to like they're saying like 1 to 3 minutes should be like the maximum, or like even under a minute, it could literally like kill someone. Yet he's talking about a minimum of 3 to 6 minutes. But yeah, it's good that he limits it to like 6 minutes. I don't know why people would sit under such cold water for like 10 minutes. I don't even know how you can even endure that and do that
this
for
guy
that
who
long.
submerged himself completely in his ice bath, that's pretty wild.
It doesn't always work like that. You know what I mean? Like going like more, like moderation is something that I feel people struggle with, on social media. But it doesn't work like that. Like if one cup of coffee wakes you up, like 10 in a row is probably not going to wake you up even more. Do you know what I mean? Chances are it's probably going to be...
I can tell you about coffee. 10 cups of coffee will wake you the
I
fuck
am
up.
sure that there's a certain amount of coffee, if you take that's going to do the opposite effect of waking you up, probably going to kill you. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a certain limit that you shouldn't go beyond. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that there's like a certain level of moderation when it comes to like coffee or the temperature or the amount of time that you submerge yourself.
I think the question is like, what is optimal? Because people are going to these extremes, but is it optimal? Like, what is the best for you? And nobody's interested in answering that question. They just want to do as much crazy shit as they can and look as impressive as they can.
Yeah.
But what is the what is the optimal thing for your health? That's what's missing from a lot of these viral videos.
Dana White.
Once you get into cold plunging, it is probably that's what it was. It's the most addicting thing ever. I read this thing where they said, people who snort cocaine, right? It releases dopamine. And
Like
it
he
lasts
knows,
for
he knows
9
what he's
minutes,
talking about.
But a cold plunge lasts like 2 hours.
Oh, that's absolutely true. Huberman talks about that on his podcast all the time. I mean, just imagine if there was a pill that could strip fat off your body, elevate your mood, improve your emotional state, force oxygen into the core of your body and cause your liver, lungs, pancreas, kidneys, and brain to receive more oxygen and elevate your mood. You'd be taking that pill every day. And that's exactly what cold water immersion does.
Okay.
Yeah,
I really don't see myself getting addicted to that, but I mean, I might be wrong. I would have to try.
Go ahead.
When I first started doing the cold plunge, which is when I first started doing the cold plunge, it was difficult for me to get to just like a minute and a half. I was freezing, and I'm still just as cold, but now I understand it. I've been here before. I've experienced it. And I know what it is. And I know I can overcome it. Woo! And I know the benefits. The benefits for resilience, the benefits for my mind and for inflammation for my body. My body feels so good. All my soreness that was generally just an ordinary part of everyday life, a massive amount of that has been dissipated, but I haven't stopped working out just as hard. It's just this sauna and cold plunge routine that I do. It's made a giant difference, and it just makes me feel great. I get out of here and I just feel wonderful. I feel calm and I feel loose and I feel relaxed. And obviously my body must have adapted because I could tolerate it so much better. Like I said, the first time I did it,
One thing we haven't talked about is like the mental toughness aspect of it. So that's something that he mentioned, just like building up his tolerance. He was able to stay in it for a minute and a half at the beginning and then build it up over time. Yeah, I can see the value in that. You're overcoming challenges, you're developing your mental toughness. Like there's something to that for sure. And I feel like he's not overhyping it either. He's got a very like balanced way of talking about it. And
I mean, I could definitely see the benefits of like the whole like mind over body, thing, whether that's cold plunges or like anything else that we do that like puts our body at a certain level of stress, and we kind of like are being able or forcing ourselves to tolerate it to a certain extent. I feel like just like with any exercise or training or like prolonged exposure to like really anything, that's what we're trying to build, that mental toughness of like just like, our body might be suffering and screaming and we're just going and training our mind just to go like, no, we're fine, we're going to tolerate. I mean, I see the benefits of that. This is something that they do in so many, like athletes do to themselves in such like a variety of different ways to like just train their minds to just be stronger than their bodies and like their impulses. But I also can't help but like think about like, one of the things that I often do, like, when it comes to fitness or just like any other area, like, when it comes to like nutrition, I try to listen to my body. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like as human beings, like we at some point just got away from just like listening to our own bodies telling us what's right and what's wrong. Like we eat certain things and we feel not so great, and like we do certain things and we don't feel so great. Just stop doing them. Your body's literally telling you most of the information, and we're often enough like we're just ignoring that. There's certain activities that are just getting us to a level where we're just not happy with us. Like we need to listen to our bodies. And I feel like that's something I still don't understand about cold plunges, because the moment like you put you dip your toe in the water, I'm sure like your body's screaming, goes, this is not good. So I'm just curious about like, why is something like that would be very beneficial? Why wouldn't our body just be designed? Because usually if we just listen to our bodies and when our body just goes like, oh no, this is crazy, like most of the time we shouldn't do that thing. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but on the flip side, I'd say like somebody who's not used to running, for example, will run for, like a kilometer, maybe they won't even make it to a kilometer.
And your body's screaming.
And be ready to die and be like, oh my God, you have to stop doing this. But then if you practice, then you build up your
Like your tolerance.
endurance,
Yeah.
and then you can make it farther and farther, and then it starts being fun. You're getting good at it, you know, and you feel like you've accomplished something. So I think maybe it's along those lines.
Yeah, that's basically what he was saying in this video. Like when he started early on, he wasn't able to tolerate it for very long. I think like he was talking about like a minute and a half or something, and now he's doing it for much longer. But the one thing that he mentioned here that we haven't really talked about up until this point is the fact that, and I don't know if he always does it in that order, but he talks about sauna and then the cold exposure. So he's talking about going in from a hot sauna, literally like preparing your body's like steaming hot, and then you're going into that cold water right after, which is something, you know, and this, like, I want to go on record, something I would personally, you know, do enjoy and would love to, you know, do on a more regular basis. But if you ever go to the spa or anything like that, like that's something that I really
The sauna, you like the sauna?
I love the sauna. So like, and again, in the combination with the other one, I feel like if you just do the sauna and then come out and nothing, like it just, something is missing.
Okay.
But going in from a hot sauna, like waiting long enough for your body to just like, again, start screaming to the point where it's like, I'm really, really hot, like I can't breathe, like I want to go outside, and then submerging yourself in the cold water. Now that feels amazing, you know, and that feels like as soon as you get out and you just like stand and breathe a little bit, you know, like just feels so good. But again, that's very different than the stuff that they're talking about often enough, when it's like first thing in the morning, you just wake up and you're just like literally out of bed, and before you exercise or eat or anything like that. That's very different to me.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
But the sauna thing, yeah, I'd do that. Dave Asprey, well, who's that guy?
The easiest way to do real ice therapy isn't actually a cold shower, although that helps. And we've probably both talked about cold showers. Hit your face, hit your chest for a minute. The cheapest and easiest way to get that, at least to get many of the benefits, is a salad bowl. And you take a salad bowl as big as your face, you put some water in it and freeze it overnight. The next day, when you want ice therapy, pour some cold water in there, let the ice chill it, take a deep breath, and bend forward and stick your face in the water as long as you can, which is probably going to be about 8 to 10 seconds before you get a cold headache. And then you go, that sucked. And you do it a couple more times. And then the next day you do it again. And now you didn't spend any money on ice, but since most of your temperature receptors, or at least the densest ones, are on your face, and you get your vagus nerve that way, you actually get really strong biological benefits, and it didn't cost you anything. And you do this every night, and magically your sleep improves, your nervous system gets stronger.
Wow, so you can actually like acclimate to colder temperatures by putting only your face into cold water.
Yeah. I got to the point where I just bought a snorkel.
So that's kind of the opposite of what Gary Brecka said about not submerging your head into cold water, because you don't want to make your brain colder. And I feel like if you're getting a headache from cold, that's probably not a good thing. I know Dave Asprey. I follow this guy. He's a biohacker. He says a lot of controversial things, and oftentimes the comments on his videos are full of people kind of like arguing against what he's saying. You know he knows what he's talking about because he's wearing those blue light blocking glasses, right? So yeah, an interesting take. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that one. It's kind of odd. But a lot of the things that he says are.
I've seen it before. Like I know a lot of people are advocating for like the skin and you know benefits of like I don't know if you ever seen a lot of like makeup tutorials and stuff like that. Like literally, you would see people going in and like taking an ice cube and just like rubbing it on their skin, on their face. That apparently that's supposed to help with I don't know, like the aging effects or wrinkles, or I don't know what else. It's supposed to like close your pores and make your face, you know, cleaner and all that. So like that's one. And I've also seen like in a whole bunch of like movies and stuff like that, where like they would like literally like fill up a sink with ice and water and just dunk their faces into it. I mean, but that's, yeah, like you said, that's definitely the opposite of what we just watched like literally 2 minutes ago, when the guy says, you know, you don't want to freeze or bake your brain and your head, and you would keep your head above the water when you do that. So, but that would be way easier. Like you don't have to like get a whole tub and like break the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that's not too popular because it's not as visual. You know what I mean? As like the other stuff, like taking a salad bowl, like just doesn't feel as
hey everybody,
and
I'm
cool.
doing a cold plunge today.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel as cool, right? Yeah. So maybe that's why it's not really popular, and I haven't really seen anyone recently on social media do that. Okay, so we're getting into like maybe some of the dangers. There's a few more videos that talking about like some of the dangers and like the cautionary videos when it comes to cold plunges. Let's look into a few of them.
If you're someone doing cold plunge, it can be dangerous. This is how you have to do it. Look, facts are with me here. The fact that cold plunges even work is because of a word called hormesis, meaning if we stress a biological system, meaning our bodies, we actually get stronger if we adapt, but we can get weaker even to the point of causing disease and sickness if we don't adapt. It's no different than exercise. It's good if you adapt to exercise. And by the way, the only reason exercise is good is because you adapt to the stress and you become stronger. But cold baths are doing the same thing. If you adapt, you get this rise in norepinephrine and a rise in growth hormone, and all these anti-inflammatory effects happen. If you don't adapt, the exact opposite happens. You actually cause inflammation. So you're gonna ask, what do I do? What you do is you start slow and work your way up. No different than exercise. You don't go in the gym and do the same workout. Of course you wouldn't do that. You'd be wiped out, sore, and you would actually cause damage. No, you start slow and work up and create more stress a little bit at a time and allow your body to adapt slowly. That's how you become stronger from cold baths. Same way. Start low and slow, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 15, 20, 30 seconds. But don't do the 3-minute cold bath that everybody's doing. Mistake. Take your time, adapt slowly. The key is to adapt to become stronger.
This makes sense to me.
I think that's one of the most like rational, like, really balanced videos that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Do it, but do it the right way and take your time as you're building up that like resilience towards like the 3 minutes or longer than that.
You don't go into the gym for the first day and try to squat 400 pounds, right? You'll kill yourself.
Yeah, I think like the George St. Pierre, like you don't go to the gym and like work out the exact same way George St. Pierre works out, because you will die, you know, like right there at the gym. By the same token, you probably shouldn't then, try to eat like he does, like right off the bat, or try to, do all these cold plunges and for however long he does them for, and with the temperature and all that, like you would want to build it up to that level. So I feel like that's a very balanced way to look at it.
Yeah, one of the wisest videos I think we've seen so far.
I like that one. Okay.
I did a video recently talking about why you need to avoid cold plunges, even though they're like super trendy and really good for some people, right? And this is why. So for people with autoimmune conditions or hormone imbalances, or just women nearing their cycle, right? It might actually do more harm than good. So the cold plunge will narrow your blood vessels generally and move blood away from non-vital tissues to vital tissues, but this shift can cause a shock in your system, and especially if your system is already somewhat compromised, it can have a negative impact. Cold water immersion basically increases your cortisol levels. It spikes stress in your system, which again causes inflammation, and not great if you already have a system that's compromised. Okay, so lastly, cold plunges can overactivate your sympathetic nervous system. This is the system that controls your fight or flight instincts, right? And for me, what happened was I got jittery. Well, I felt really great right after the plunge, but later, a few hours later, I got really jittery, I got anxious, I just basically crashed, and I slept for 16 hours. Some people might conversely find it hard to fall back asleep, right? If with all that like nervous jittery energy in them. Hey guys, it's later obviously, but I wanted to follow up because if you do want to try cold plunge in a way that isn't as taxing to your system, but still provides the potential benefits of helping reset your nervous system, improving your resiliency, improving recovery from exercise or mental exertion, then you can follow Dave Asprey's method, which is taking a bowl of ice cold water and dunking just your face in it for 30 seconds to a minute, however long you can tolerate, and doing 3 to 5 reps of this. This should provide you with a lot of the benefits without freaking out your nervous system. So try it out. Let me know if it works for you.
Okay, I still don't know about the bowl of ice water thing, but I think some of the things that she mentioned at the beginning make sense, and I haven't looked into the specifics of how cold plunges affect women differently from men, but I have heard stuff about how, it's just like, things like fasting, right? There's things that are recommended for men that aren't necessarily recommended for women. Fasting is one of those things. Cold plunges must be one of those things too. So
definitely on a hormonal level, we're very different in that sense, and I feel like these things could have a pretty important effect pretty big effect on the difference how men, like a male body and female body, react to a cold plunge. And I feel like the reproductive system and all that you kind of mentioned and talked about a little bit, I feel like that's something that's not being talked about enough. You know, I can't help but think that, you know, is it just another fad? You know, is it just like the latest thing?
Yeah.
You know, like, and there were so many things like in the past that we are now, and not that long ago. I'm not talking about like 50 years ago, but like things that are recently in the past, like 10, 15, 20 years that we have considered like literally the latest, best, most amazing, you know, that has the most amount of health benefits and all that, that are now almost being laughed at. Like, do you remember when like things that, you know, the shake weight came out, like, and everybody was talking about that and like they were promoting it and how amazing. And does anyone today do shake weight whatsoever? Like, but when it came out, everybody was talking about how it's such a shortcut to building all these muscles and how it activates your core and all of these, you know, different muscles, and you can only do it for like a couple of minutes a day and it makes you feel better. Like, there were literally all of these benefits that we're seeing right now, people, you know, advocating for cold plunges. Like, people talked about like, you know, these different other things. Like, I remember at some point everybody was just doing Zumba, and I was like, and yeah, maybe there's some people that still do Zumba today, but it's not as widespread. And like, there's a reason for that. I feel like it's just like the newest, coolest, you know, and especially like it looks badass. Like, that's something like I will give it to them. You know what I mean? It looks badass, like a lot more badass than shake weight.
Are you serious? I think the shake weight is so badass.
I'll get you one for Christmas.
I already have one. Don't worry about it.
Let me get two. So like you get yeah, one is good. Two is, you know, it's even better. So yeah, so I can't help like but feel that way. You know what I mean? By watching all of these videos and seeing all of these like celebrities or just like influencers and like all of these online creators, you know, and maybe some of them like have the background and they come from like medical backgrounds and all that. I'm not saying that it's completely 100%. Just like I'm sure that shake weight to a certain extent has certain benefits. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it's like the latest, coolest thing, and it just it's just very cool looking, and this is what's something that's so important for social media, because I feel like if somebody came out with something that's a little bit more like mild, but it might have a lot of the benefits, but without necessarily some of the risks, because maybe the temperature is not as cold or like the exposure is not as long. Maybe it's just like, have you ever heard of like people like literally saying like, you know, have a nice warm shower as you normally would, but just like the last few seconds or like the last minute or so, just like lower the temperature a little bit and like, you know, have it, and I do that from time to time, and I just feel like that feels really well. Sometimes after a really warm shower, you just put it up and you feel it. You feel like your breath, you know, you're breathing a little bit differently, and it just like when you come out, like it feels really good, without necessarily like putting your body in like that fight or flight mode where it's like just going crazy. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't think cold exposure is going anywhere. I just think that eventually the trend is going to fade, just like everything else.
Yeah,
and it'll remain, you know, something that healthy people or people who are interested in health and fitness will do, but they're not going to do it in a showy way, like fly to Alaska and go, you know, go swim with the penguins or whatever. It'll just be like the normal type of stuff, like maybe turn the heater off in your swimming pool, you know, or you know, like whatever, like normal things like that.
Right. Now that's another benefit that nobody's talking about, but like I guess if you're just taking cold showers and all that, like you know, the money you can save from like
heating bills?
Heating bills, like
this is true.
Nobody's talking about that.
No, the financial aspect of it.
As a naturopathic doctor, I have to warn you to beware of the cold plunge, especially when it involves doing hyperventilation or deep breathing exercises at the same time. So doing deep breathing or hyperventilation techniques together with cold water immersion or cold plunging can cause a condition that's called shallow water blackout. And it can also cause an involuntary gasp reflex, where if that happens underwater, it can quickly lead to drowning. So listen, generally speaking, ice baths or cold plunges can be great medicine. It's the combination of hyperventilation and cold immersion that can be very dangerous. Now, if you don't have cardiovascular disease, hypertension, arrhythmias, or any kind of cold-related diseases, cold plunges can definitely have health benefits. Alleviate muscle soreness, reduce inflammation, stimulate circulation, speed up recovery. It definitely also leads to increased alertness and energy. And a big part of it is that doing something so difficult struggle is actually really empowering, and it helps you train your stress management system to be more resilient in the future. So listen, if you're going to do it, don't do it alone. Do it sober. Get in feet first and breathe in a steady rhythm. So I am here for the trend, but I want you to do it safely, which
Sounds
is
like
why.
good advice too. It goes again with the thing about not submerging your head underwater. You get that involuntary gasp reflex. That makes a lot of sense. Not enough people seem to be talking about that one. It's the first one that we've really heard. And yeah, don't cold plunge drunk either. Pretty much of a no-brainer.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been under the influence and been like, you know what, let me just go and take a cold plunge. That was never something that I was like, let me do that. So, yeah. Let's see.
This is our cold plunge, partnered with a company called Edge Theory.
Again, there is no scientific evidence that is reproducible, reliable, and definitive that states that cold plunge helps with anything. He goes on to say that it helps your liver and your liver detoxes and your liver does all this madness. No, your liver doesn't do any of that. Please, people, find people who are reliable sources of medical and health and longevity information and follow them. Don't follow the scammers that are partnering with a company about cold plunge to sell you their own versions of cold plunge or supplements or saunas or red light therapy, blue blocking glasses, or whatever it is.
Okay, well, I think there are enough health experts talking about the benefits that, you know, we can assume that there are some. Like, I wouldn't discount like what Andrew Huberman has said about it, for example. But yeah, you mentioned it before. Everybody's trying to sell something online.
Right.
And most of these people who are doing these crazy stunts do have product endorsements and things like that attached to them. So, I mean, there's something there, but I don't know who this guy
Well, they're
is.
saying like
so.
the industry is like hundreds of millions of dollars per year industry. Like if you look and, you know, I quickly looked at some of the prices of like what are these like tubs cost, because a lot of them are like self-regulating, like the water circulating, it keeps the temperature at a certain level. Even sometimes when you talked about like how we can, you know, make you feel like the water is actually like below freezing temperature,
but because it's moving,
because
it's
it's
not
circulating and moving, that it doesn't actually freeze up. So there's some, and these things cost like thousands, and like I've seen models that cost like $16,000 to $20,000. So it just makes me question. I mean, even these big time influencers, like, you know, are they promoting it, you know, for the sake of just like, you know, making commission off of like some of these sales, which is something that we've seen all the time. And another thing that I kind of often struggle with, like, you know how at any point, if you ask like humanity, like, you know, we kind of always feel like we have everything figured out. You know what I mean? Like when we thought that the sun was rotating around the earth, like we had science and we had all of these things, and we thought that we're literally at the cutting edge and like at the top of our game when it comes to like science and all that. We thought we knew everything that there is to know. And we thought that the sun rotates around the earth. Later, we found that that was not true, obviously. Same with like, you know, so many other things that we have. I don't know, like back in the day, like we thought like cigarettes or like Coca-Cola was like, you know, the cure for like stomach aches and stuff like that. Again, we thought it was literally made, you know, created to treat stomach ache. And again, even at that time, and that wasn't even that long ago, you know, and we can like there were so many things like smoking at a certain point, like where there were like no health, you know, and there were no risks.
Yeah.
You know? And again, that wasn't that long ago either.
A few decades.
Right? Like, literally a couple of decades. So I'm just questioning and asking myself right now, even though today, every time we feel like, but now we're at the top of our game. You know, are we going to ask ourselves like 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, we're going to be like, how crazy were we to like think that that was beneficial? You know what I mean? Because like a lot of these things, we need to like experience them and do them for like a certain period of time before we really can see like, you know, what are the benefits? What are the risks? You know, are the benefits outweigh the risks? I'm sure that to a certain extent there might be certain benefits, but I feel like the how we do it, how much we do it, and who does it, and I feel like that is not talked about enough. Because it's boring and people don't want to hear that, and it's definitely not what's going to make a trend on TikTok or Instagram, and therefore nobody really talks about it, right? Like at the end of the day, if you think about it, like whether it's like, you know, Dr. Huberman or like this, you know, what's his name? What's the guy's name?
Gary Brecka?
Gary Brecka or any of those things. At the end of the day, like they're they make, I'm assuming, a lot of their income through social media, right?
Yeah,
And I don't know if they have seminars or they sell certain courses or whatever that is, like that they then monetize their content. So obviously, a lot of this content, like the watchability of it and the virality of it, is really important to them. So again, it always makes me question the facts behind it. Is it really that well documented, and do we really know as much as we say we know about it? And 20, 30, or 40 years from now, maybe even 5 years from now, are the results and are going to be exactly the same, or we're going to find that there were a lot more risks than benefits to this? So
yeah. I have a lot less questions about Andrew Huberman's work because I think that he's really concerned about the science and everything, and less about selling products, or what if he does have sponsorships, they're not directly related to like the content of his videos per se.
Right.
So like I think he's a better example, but for sure you're right. There's a lot of health influencers out there who do attach themselves to certain products that amplify their message, or that maybe their message correlates with the things that they're trying to sell also. So there's that to consider too.
yeah, and to some extent, it just makes really good content.
Yeah.
It just makes really good content. Like I've seen people who literally their entire channels are just that. It's literally like, what was that guy that we watched, like day 823 or like whatever 84 of doing a cold plunge every single morning, and their content is literally just that. Like every day they would just post a video of them submerging. It's very relatively easy content. You don't have to be very creative, and at the same time, since it's so popular today, it goes viral, and just people just get hooked on the views. So obviously, it's in their interest to like advocate for the benefits while they might not really have all the information.
Yeah.
That's really terrible to hear. I was really surprised at how common this is when I started to look into it. Cold water immersion deaths represent the third most common cause of accidental death in adults and the second in children in most countries. In the year 2000, around 450,000 people died worldwide from cold water immersion. It can basically cause a sudden heart attack. So before you follow your favorite popular influencer and just jump into the cold water, you should understand the risks. And it's ironic because a lot of the times these people are the ones who tell you not to eat like artificial sweeteners or seed oils, but they'll tell you to just jump right into cold water.
Yeah, that's something that's not talked about enough. I feel like the risks beyond just like hypothermia, like or just temporarily jittery and all that stuff, that you can literally just straight up drown in the water and die. And 450,000 deaths. Accidental death. That's a high. I'm not an expert, but that seems like a very high number.
Yeah, I'd have to verify that number, but it does. Yeah, it's definitely not nothing. I just thought of Wim Hof. He's been doing this for a long time too.
Yeah,
and I don't find that he's been completely swept up in this trend either, because he's just been doing this forever. So yeah, like I don't know, maybe we should pull up one of his videos or something, because he's like almost like the grandfather of this kind of extreme temperature stuff.
Receptors creating noradrenaline 540% more, dopamine 250 to 300% more. It's all science. This will battle effectively your mental disorder called depression, bipolar, or any other coming to you. You are able to get back into sense, deep sense, into you, yourself.
Yeah, he's been doing this type of thing forever.
But even he has these like seminars, like these getaways, these retreats that he does when you go for a weekend. Oh, see, that's one of them. It's like you see all of these people. There's literally like
hiking in their bathing suits.
Yeah, literally, that's what they do. They go for a hike in their bathing suits, and then they usually go up somewhere higher, and then they jump into like ice water. And he also has these exercises when they would literally like go in the circle, hold hands, and then stay in the water for like a very long, like we're talking way longer than the minute or 2 or 3, like we're talking like 10 minutes. Yeah,
he's really like
minutes.
A mind over body, like extreme challenge, like push yourself to the limit type person. I see that and I think about my grandmother and how she always used to tell me to put my hat on because I was going to get a cold, It's like,
one of the things that my mother used to tell me, like literally every time, and not even just in the winter, but also in nice warm days. Like if I used to take a shower and my head was like still a little wet, And she was like, oh, no, you got to dry your hair before you go outside because then you're going to, catch a cold and you're going to, and like these guys are literally like submerging themselves, like going out, they're like fully wet in freezing temperatures and like they're doing all these crazy things and it's supposed to do the opposite of get you sick. Is it just like the human kind of urge to like put ourselves in these like crazy situations just because we kind of feel better about ourselves because we just feel like we overcame something? Do you know what I mean? Like, but potentially like, are the benefits? Is it kind of like the placebo effect? Is what I'm trying to say. Like, are the effects mainly related? Like, is the effects in like your mood and like dopamine levels and all of these things? Is it a placebo effect? Is it just because we feel like we've done something so extreme and so crazy that we're better off than so many people, and then therefore we fill our brain with all of these positive energy and these positive thoughts that literally just like raises our own dopamine levels and all of these things. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, is it that?
Could be part of it. I'm sure that these excursions with, dozens of people climbing a mountain naked together in the wintertime, there's also a sense of like community in that. Like you're all doing something together that's very challenging and you're doing it as a team and you build these bonds with people. So like it's a multi-layered thing. Like I don't think it's just one thing. It's not just like the cold that's having the effect on you. There's multiple things at play.
So what have we learned? I mean, if we can just kind of put our stamp on it and conclude this video, what would be your conclusion? And I don't know, maybe mine will be the same. Like, what do you think? Do you think that the truth is, in this case, lies somewhere in the middle? How do you feel about that?
Look, I think that there's a lot of compelling evidence that cold exposure has benefits. I think that most of the viral examples that you see online are to the extreme that probably wouldn't be necessary for the average person to do or even healthy for the average person to do. And, I think like you said, it's not sexy to say start slow and like use moderation, exercise moderation, right? But I think that's the sane and reasonable thing to do for most people. I wouldn't try to go trying to emulate what these people are doing with their 90-day cold plunge every day, every morning, and jump in an ice bath challenge if you're not used to doing that. Because obviously these people are just trying to do it for the views and the popularity. So yeah, like you said before, listen to your body. If you want to give it a try, start slow. That's what I've been trying to do, and I think I'll continue trying to do that and see where it takes me. But I won't be going to any of the crazy extremes that we've seen in some of these videos.
I feel like it's very similar to a lot of like other trends that are popular these days, and especially like those who have been perpetuated and pushed by like social media. I think that it's very in alignment with what consider makes a good trend these days, right? It needs to be extreme, right? If I tell you that. Like we see a lot of stuff like talking about like the health benefits of like certain diets or ejecting certain things or adding certain things to your diet, right? And I feel like if anybody came out today and said like, you know what, the best thing to do is like eat a little bit of vegetables and eat a little bit of like meat protein and drink a little bit of water and like do a little bit of exercise, like it's not cool, it's not edgy, it's not it doesn't have the components.
It's not exciting.
It's not exciting. It doesn't have the things that makes it viral. But if somebody comes out and says like, oh, just eat raw chicken, like literally every day, and you'll just gain all of these benefits, and there's some weird study somewhere that says that, hey, this actually might not be as crazy as it sounds, like I feel like it has the potential of really going viral. Because again, if you watch a video of someone eating raw chicken, and I don't even want to go that crazy, but it's not that far from the reality. Like we saw literally guys in the past year or so, literally eating raw like bull testicles and advocating of how beneficial that would be on your, and nobody considers that, nobody considered that back then, like, and called them out on it right away. Or maybe they did. And I feel like that's what created that virality. That's what created that viral effect that made it as widespread. And I feel like a lot of it really, like, there's a lot of similarities between that and cold plunges, because what we see is not like these slow, regulated kind of build up your tolerance, but more like just go in and jump into a frozen river. And if you have a huge axe and you break the ice and you dump in, and then if you're really sexy and you go in half naked or as, with the least amount of clothes possible, that's even better. Like that's what works. And I feel like that's what people see and that's what people try to emulate. And I feel like that's where it becomes or is very dangerous.
Yeah, because it's more about the show than it is about the actual health benefits that are connected to it.
Yeah.
Well, that was episode 1 of Somewhere in the Middle. Hope you enjoyed it. If you think that we're idiots, let us know in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, anything that you'd like to hear us talk about and dissect, please let us know as well.
Thanks, guys.